Now this is a story all about how my DS Lite became the broken mess that you're seeing right now. So let me take you back to I guess 2019 is probably when we should begin this story. So Modern Warfare 2019 was coming out and I was like, hey, you know what? My old DS Lite, it's a little beat up, the D-pad, it's kind of like beaten into the system, it's almost unusable, the battery needs replaced. I'm gonna just go ahead and sell this thing off to GameStop along with all of my games so I can afford a pre-order for Modern Warfare 2019. And in retrospect, that was a terrible idea. The system was in phenomenal condition otherwise. It was my original system that I had had since the mid-2000s. Every time I say that, it just makes me feel so old because I know half the people watching this video probably weren't even born until the late 2000s or the early 2010s. In retrospect, that would have been such an easy fix on my end too. All I had to do was open up the DS, which takes 30 seconds, flip up the motherboard, replace the rubbers, and that's it. It's like a 5-minute fix. Oh, and the battery, you literally just screw off the back, open up the latch, replace the battery. Because at this point, I've refurbished dozens of DS Lites. I know my way around the internals of the system, which, you know, it may not look like it, but I swear, there's a reason that this happened. Anyway, after that, I started feeling sad, nostalgic, and reminiscing upon the old days with my DS Lite in 2021, 2020, somewhere in there, I want to say. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a new DS Lite, which is this DS Lite that you're seeing right here. And yeah, I found a solid listing for it on like eBay or Mercari or something like that, and I was like, you know what, that's a decent price, that's a decent listing, and the photos look solid, so I went ahead and bought it. But what the seller didn't tell me, and you know what, I even have the original screen cover, I can show it to you. I'm keeping this bag because, you know, while I could sell this off and get money for parts, I want to keep it so then in the future, if, say, I ever run into a situation where I need replacement parts for a DS, since I know how to refurbish and, you know, repair these things, then I have this here, you know. But, you know, with this DS specifically, it's at that point where it's so just broken that, like, rather than trying to repair this one, it would be a better investment for me to buy a new one that I actually want, which we're gonna get into later on, and then just use this one as replacement parts since there is still a lot of good parts inside of it. This one seemed to kind of get finagled with the frame for the original screen here, so I'm trying my best to peel this off. Yeah, you always want to hang on to that because that goes over the top of the touchscreen, like on the outer rim part. But anyway, yeah, the seller didn't care to tell me that, like, the screen part, you can even see it basically on the camera, at least I hope so, how like scratched up and banged up it is. And again, I couldn't even tell in the photos because the photos were rather close up, so I was assuming that I was getting the full picture there. But you know, it may not look that bad on the screen, but it's one of those scratches where, like, when you drag a stylus over it, it's literally unresponsive, and it feels like a road bump every time you're going over it. Furthermore, it's like all over the thing. So even though it's not coming up on camera that well, trust me, it gets to the point of where if something's in the center of the screen, it's not that you can barely almost see it, it's just that your eyes have to work to make out what you're looking at through the scratches. I dealt with that for a couple of years until this past week. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and replace the whole digitizer thing myself, because that in itself is also an easy repair that I've done many times before. But again, if you couldn't tell between the scratched up screen and just the condition of the shell overall, which is quite scratched up, the previous owner didn't take the best care of this thing. Now, I'm not sure if they were a smoker. I know me personally, I used to be a smoker, but I never smoked inside of my house or around my devices, so you know, when I opened this thing up and started to see some yellowing on some of the screws and internals, I know for a fact that it wasn't for me. Because again, even though I used to be a smoker, obviously, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm a smoker, so everything I touch becomes yellow. No, that's not how it works. I smoked outside, and then yes, even though I may have had some smoker stuff on my hands, that wouldn't have worked its way into the internals and made it look like a smoker just kind of like huffed inside of this thing. Now, when I opened it, the funny thing is, it didn't necessarily stink either, so I don't know if this is a situation where they smoked around the device, or maybe it was just in a bad environment or rusting over time, but it didn't look like rust. It just looked like overall yellowing. That being said, if you're unfamiliar with like technology and, you know, like certain kinds of like cables and wires and stuff like that, basically when it's in those kind of environments, they can deteriorate over time. And I've seen that many times with many different DS Lites that I've repaired, to where sometimes you open them up and some are just more stable than others in terms of how much abuse they're willing to take. And unfortunately, with some systems, they can become so degraded over time to where, unless you were like magnifying glass and tweezering that thing, they can become pretty brittle. And I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. The whole repair went great. I got the digitizer on, got the ribbon cables in and everything like that. But the ribbon cable was so, like not the ribbon cable itself, because obviously each digitizer comes with its own set of like ribbon cables on it. But rather the ribbon cable latch, you know, the little black latch. I'm not talking about the big one, I'm talking about the real tiny one. If you've repaired a DS Lite before, you know what I'm talking about. It's that real tiny one. And normally it's kind of sensitive, but not sensitive enough to where it's just gonna like snap. You know what I mean? But this one, I kid you not, I was following normal procedure with my tools. You know, I wasn't like manhandling with my nails. Like, no, I have a proper tool set for these things. I've done this before. I even had the magnifying glass thing set up just because, you know, when you're trying to do that ribbon cable, it's a good idea to make sure you can properly see what you're doing. So I had all that set up and I was doing it when, you know, just one tiny little flip up and it just snapped off. Like snapped, hinges broke, everything like that. And I was looking at it like, how in the world did that even happen? So at that point, I was pretty annoyed because here's the thing. If that ribbon cable latch snaps off, the small one, you can fix it if the hinges are still intact. But this thing, I don't even know what happened. Not only did the latch itself break, but then the, like the hinge part on the actual motherboard just snapped. I have no idea how or what happened. I was as careful as I've ever been, following the standard procedures. If I had to guess, it's probably one of two things. One, this is aging hardware. The DS Lite, oh, sorry, just earthquake to the camera right there. The DS Lite released in 2006. It is an 18-year-old piece of hardware. That being said, the previous owner obviously did not take very good care of this thing, and I'm assuming they might have smoked in their home, or there might have been some sort of damage done to the device at some point, because the internals clearly were not up to spec and were... It wasn't necessarily a struggle to work with the device, but it was clear that they just, you know, things had kind of been degraded over time, especially looking at the wires. So while yes, at this point, theoretically speaking, it would still be possible to fix this thing, it's at the point where it would require even more repairs than it's worth. And I'm just gonna invest in a new DS Lite, and I'm gonna hold on to this because there is many good parts inside of here still. So I'm going to use this as replacement parts, because if I get a new DS Lite and the battery sucks, this battery's great. If I need a new, set of rubbers, these rubbers are absolutely perfect. If I need a new digitizer screen, I mean, I can replace it. I'd be a little terrified too, because, you know, if I end up buying a new one and it looks great on the outside but looks like crap on the inside, then who knows what could happen there. But, you know, it's an option. All that being said, here's where I'm at. I am out of a DS Lite and I'm actually depressed. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna sound pathetic, but I did cry a little bit when the DS Lite broke yesterday. Now, I know it's gonna be like, oh, come on, Grotesque, you're a man up. But you don't understand. The DS Lite is like one of my main childhood consoles, you know? It's right up there with like the PS2 is like one of my main consoles that I was rocking with as a youngin', and oh gosh, that makes me sound so old saying youngin'. But seriously, like, you know, in the early 2000s, whatever, like the DS Lite was just like one of my main things. So many fond memories with it, and after selling it and having that regret, and then finally getting another one in, you know, 2020, 2021, whatever like that, and just having one again, it was such an amazing feeling, you know, opening up the package, receiving my DS Lite, and playing on it for these last couple of years. And, you know, with the condition that it came in, it was obvious that it would either A, need replaced, or B, need fixed at some point, and it just... Part of it is just the sadness that the DS Lite broke in general, but the second part of it is just that even though, you know, obviously I really don't believe it was my fault, because I was following all the standard, you know, refurbishing procedures that you would follow when repairing a DS Lite. I've worked with many different pieces of technology before, whether that be repairing Xboxes, PlayStations, DS's, other Nintendo systems. Like, I know my way around motherboards, or, you know, building PCs, fixing and troubleshooting building PCs, and, you know, like, fixing motherboards. I'm a tech wizard. I know what I'm doing. So, you know, on one hand, like, it kind of feels like my fault, even though it really isn't, but it's still, it broke by my hands, so therefore I'm harboring a lot of the fault for it. Now, here's the thing. I can still play my DS games, my R4 card, and all this on my, you know, to 3DS, 2DS systems, whatever. That's all good. But the thing is, it's just not the same. And while there is a technical side of that to where it's like, well, you know, the pixel ratio isn't exact, so the games don't exactly look how they should on the 3DS family of systems, while there is kind of that side to it that bothers me, it's just not the same experience as, like, turning on a DS Lite, seeing the startup, and actually, like, using the system. And again, there is kind of the aspect about, like, the whole pixel ratio thing, so the games don't look exactly as they should. They look a little bit blurrier than they probably should. You know, I mean, I was playing on it this morning, and it was like, hey, you know what? This is perfectly fine. Like, I could totally play my DS games like this, but I want another DS Lite, so I've been browsing on eBay and Mercari, I found a couple listings, and I'm kind of stuck right now. So here's the situation. My birthday is in a little less than 2 months. It is at the end of October, October 26th. And I was thinking of maybe getting myself an early birthday gift because they're not that expensive. They're like 40, 50, 60 bucks tops to get a good DS Lite, and that's not that much money. But here's the thing. I don't like spending money, even though this is such a weird thing with me. I spend a lot of money on video games, obviously. That bookshelf is not even half of my video game collection. I literally need to buy a few more bookshelves because it's all my video games are in my dresser and in my closet right now over there. Like, clearly I'm fine with spending money on video games, but it's weird how my brain works. I'm fine with making multiple small purchases, but when making a purchase that is slightly larger in cost all at once, like anything more than like 20 bucks at a time, then I start to feel bad. Even if I can afford it, which I can, I still feel bad and guilty for doing it. I don't know if this is just a situation of where, you know, I grew up really poor, like dirt poor. Like, to buy my video games as a kid, I had to mow many lawns for many different people, pull many weeds, doing an amount of work that is probably illegal by child labor laws, just to be able to afford video games and systems and such. So, you know, I don't know if it's just because that's my history and that's my background, therefore I feel bad for spending bigger amounts of money. I guess that's just that's probably a possibility, just kind of that thing that never really leaves you. Like, nowadays, like, I'm not gonna lie, there was one year a couple years ago where I caught a lucky break with like I don't know, one of my tax returns or something like that, and it was like, you know, a relatively decent size, and I still just didn't want to spend any of it. I was just kind of sitting on it, and even though I saw things that I wanted to get, I was like, you know, I'm just gonna put this towards groceries and I'm just gonna sit on it in case an emergency comes up, you know what I mean? I feel bad for spending money. It's just, I don't know. And furthermore, I don't really believe in birthday gifts. Like, I buy other people birthday gifts, but I don't like when I get birthday gifts. Like, when it comes to my birthdays, I don't expect or really even want anybody to buy me gifts, send me gifts, or, you know, feel like they have to treat me one way or the other. In fact, half the time, I don't even end up mentioning that it's my birthday to anybody. Like, I never end up texting anybody about it. I don't remind anybody about it. In fact, even like last year, I think when my birthday came around, I didn't even mention it on video. I might have made a small comment about it in the video and be like, oh yeah, it's my birthday today, but then just kind of walked past it. But even then, I'll have to go back and check, but I don't even think I mentioned it last year. Like, I don't like drawing a lot of attention to it. I just don't like when people feel like they need to give me things, you know? And that goes doubly so for myself, which is what I'm really trying to get out here. You know, again, I was thinking about maybe buying myself a new DS Lite to get it for myself as a birthday gift. But, you know, if I don't like when other people get me things, imagine how I feel about me buying myself something for my birthday, because that goes back to what I was saying before about how I really don't like spending money unless I have to. Same example I've used time and time again before, where I wear my shoes until the bottoms are literally eroded and it's just like my bare foot touching the ground essentially because there's so many holes in the shoes, or using my toothbrush until the bristles are like just a tangled mess getting stuck in my teeth. Yeah, same thing with my birthday. You know, if there's something I actually need where it's like, hey, I need some extra groceries this week to last me till whenever I'm gonna be going again, then sure, I'll spend some extra money on that. But I don't know, I'm feeling really sad right now, so I'm thinking I might just say screw it and put an order in for a new DS Lite. But I'm not sure because, again, I'm at that situation where, you know, like for my 2DS, for example, because I was on my 2DS this morning, I put my R4 in there and I was just bouncing between different games, and it's like, sure, even though the screen doesn't look exactly like it would look like if I was playing it on a DS Lite screen, I mean, it's still the game. It still plays just fine, and I have a tangible way to play the game. So I'm thinking I'm just not gonna there's two sides of my mind going back and forth, where one side's like, dude, just go for it, you want it. And furthermore, the thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that when I sold that DS Lite back in 2019, it was a coral blue and black, which is like, you know, that was just my system. Even though my favorite colors are like red and black, so you might think that I might want like a red and black DS Lite, I had the coral blue and black back in the day. So if I get another DS Lite, I would want it to be that coral blue and black, just to kind of call back to that nostalgia, because that was my childhood system. And this DS Lite that I had here that just broke, this was a black DS Lite, which, you know, black is cool and all. It's a really sleek and nice looking system. But again, there's just something about the nostalgia of that original blue system, just because I can remember when I was like, oh gosh, how old would I have been at the time? I don't even remember how old I would have been at the time, but again, this is sometime in the 2000s. I can't remember the exact year even. That's how you know you're getting old, when you can't even remember the exact year of things anymore. But anyways, yeah, I remember getting the box, opening it up, and like seeing the just magical glowing glossy blue right there. turning on the system for the first time, calibrating the screen, choosing my favorite color and setting up my birthday and stuff, popping the game in, and yeah, even though it's something as small and as simple as the color of the device, which you don't even see half the time because the inside of most DS systems like that are completely black, like the red and black are black on the inside, the coral blue and black are black on the inside, there's only blue on the top. It's just, I don't know, it still kind of makes a difference in my goofy little nostalgic brain. So if I do end up buying another DS Lite, that's the one that I would want, since this DS Lite wasn't even, you know, that same color, obviously. So I don't know, I'll have to think about it. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll jump the gun on it, I'm not exactly sure. It's just a tough situation where it's like you really want something, but you also want to be financially responsible, so I don't know. At some point I also want to pick up the light blue. Now there's you know, a couple variants of the light blue, but the one vibrant light blue, I believe it would be called like a teal DSi. I've always been eyeballing that system ever since it was released back in like, what, 2009, I want to say is when that one came out. I've always been eyeballing that system. I always thought it was absolutely beautiful, so I want to get my hands on that one at some point, but right now the DS Lite is definitely my main priority, and then the DSi is just one of those things where it's like, hey, if I see a good deal on it, I'll snag it, but that's kind of where I'm at with the DS Lite as well. I'm trying to wait for a good deal, but I'm just at the point where if I see a good listing, which I've seen a couple, I might just go for it. Still feeling really indecisive. This is what it's like living with ADHD and OCD, you know? It's like, it's a constant back and forth in your brain about every little thing, and I know for this, it may seem like, okay, this is a reasonable thing to go back and forth about. You're deciding whether or not to spend like a, you know, a decent chunk of change on a device, but no, this goes for literally everything in my life. It's like, dog, today am I gonna wear the blue and yellow striped underwear, or am I going to wear the red, white, and blue striped underwear? Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I go back and forth about every little thing in my life. I'm not sure, does mayo sound good on this sandwich today, or am I feeling honey mustard? Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it goes back and forth. Literally everything. I like right now, for example, I have 2 cases of water over there, or it's actually, no, I'm sorry, it's 3 cases of water, because they have like a buy tube, whatever. There was like some Aquafina and some Dasani, and those are like my 2 main water brands that I drink, so, you know, I have a case of Aquafina and Dasani over there. Dasani's my main, Aquafina is my second main, and then Pure Life is like my 3rd one that I'll go to if neither of the other 2 are there. But anyway, yeah, I've kind of had a thing. Like this morning, I was like, do I want Aquafina or Dasani? It's water. But anyways, yeah, I've sucked up enough of your time. I'll let you go now. You know, I love making these videos where I get to just sit down and have a casual conversation, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to suck up your entire day, so we'll start to wrap things up here. But again, yeah, that was the story and where we're currently at with the my broken DS Lite. But anyway, as always, massive shout out to all the Patreons and channel members to get on low ball tier, never shout out to all the blue ball tier, my last game is animated, they shit that on GT Run, Vincent, and Cheese Gold. Thank you guys so much, guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching, an amazing day, stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.